This is the final report on Reid's 657 case. I'll let him narrate it.
Okay, this is number 657, a case that I did on tooth number 31. The patient presented having pain, symptoms. On the PA, the bite wing's pretty unremarkable. We were concerned about a fracture because they bit down on some kind of nut and they heard a sound and basically felt like they fractured the tooth. When I went inside, it was fractured from mesial to distal. You can see on the sagittal view, the scan, you can see a little bit of bone loss on that distal. You can see a little bit of the fracture, at least an idea of it on the axial view. And patient's in pain, thought it was 30, but we went ahead and treated 31. It was necrotic, symptomatic apical periodontitis. I went ahead and treated it. I shaped to a Wave 1 Gold medium to the 35 tip. And I decided to use the Endoactivator, the Smart Light Pro Endoactivator, which is 18,000 cycles per minute, And I used the red tip. I used 17% EDTA. You can see that for 1.5 minutes per canal, 2 millimeters short of the working length. Then I used Triton after that, 1 minute per canal, let it soak for 10 minutes. And then I went back and did another minute of Triton just to see what would happen. So I'm kind of trying to go a little longer than we normally do, shape a little bigger to see what happens in this case. So I'm looking forward to hearing the results.
I received the tooth intact in formalin. This is a picture of the tooth before cutting the crown off. I separated the crown, and you can see the mesiodistal fracture there very clearly. I took some pictures so you can see the extent of the fracture. This is the business end of the mesial root. And these are the radiographs I took after the crown was separated and the roots separated. So that's the distal. This is the mesial root. And when we sagittally sectioned the mesial root, it was difficult. We didn't get a clean section, but this is 1/2 of the mesial root, and that's the sputter-coated part of that, sputter-coated a little bit more, so you can see both canals. This is the other part of the mesial root. We're able to get one of the canals intact, and that's the sputter-coated. On the distal root, that was a little easier, and we got a pretty good sagittal split on the distal root. It's interesting, in this case, you'll notice there wasn't apparently any pulpal tissue at all anywhere. It was very, very clean. We didn't get a clean sagittal split, so the second half of the distal sagittal section, we couldn't go all the way to the apex. When you actually go in and look at the SEM imaging on this, let's look at the distal root first. Again, when you look at this compared to some of the other cases we've looked at, this was just incredibly clean. Almost no debris, no pulpal tissue at all. And the predentin seems almost completely removed. It would seem to me that the Triton is very good at demineralizing the predentin right down to the mineralization front. Now, when you look at this, it looks like maybe some organisms there, but what those structures are really is the demineralized part of the predentin that had been calcified. So the Triton apparently does a very good job of demineralizing the predentin, because there's almost no predentin left after this treatment. There you can see the mineralization front has not been completely demineralized, but there were dentinal tubules pretty much everywhere, right down to the mineralization front. So when you look in a different area, maybe a little more coronal, where you might expect that the effect of the endoactivator would be a little more. Again, you see very, very clean dentinal tubules, almost no predentin anywhere, and really no instrumentation debris to speak of. that you typically see in these cases. So I think the Triton probably does a pretty good job of demineralizing. When you look at a little higher power, you can see the mineralization front has been, very well demineralized. And the peritubular dentin has not been demineralized. But then when you actually look at higher mag, you can see some bacterial morphotypes that are right against the mineralization front. These are bacterial morphotypes that are present. Really impregnated right onto the mineralization front. Now, maybe they're not very healthy looking bacterial morphotypes, but they're definitely bacterial morphotypes. Now, when you look at the area a little more coronally, again, you see pretty much the same thing. Very, very clean dentinal walls with exposed dentinal tubules and almost no predentin present. So it's worthwhile taking some time to look through these stitched images. There you can see what looks like a Tomes process. And there you can see bacterial morphotypes still right down into the tubule. Those are bacterial morphotypes there. And then more towards the mid-root area, again, very little predentin. Almost all the predentin is gone, and the peritubular dentin is still present because you don't see any of the collagenous nature when the predentin is removed from the tubule. Again, notice how clean the dentinal wall looks. Now we're looking at the mesial root here. And again, a very similar look, very, very clean looking, almost no predentin at all. And here you can see kind of a classic dentinal tubule exposure from the effect of the instrumentation. No instrumentation debris at all that I could detect. And no obvious bacterial morphotypes. Maybe there's something right there, but mostly it's just demineralizing peritubular and intratubular dentin. Here you can see more towards the terminus, you have the expected layer of tissue or debris that's present. But again, no evidence of any bacterial morphotypes in that area. Now, when you go a little further up away from the terminus, you do find something very interesting here. And when you go into that area where you have exposed dentinal tubules, you see what is the odontoblastic cell body that has not been removed, still intact with the odontoblastic process going down into the tubule. So I have seen this before in a couple of the gentle wave cases, but it's very, very unusual to see so much demineralization taking place, and yet the odontoblastic cell seems to be intact. Here's another area showing how clean the dentin looks, the dentinal wall looks. And this is down near the terminus where you have a lot of debris and still some tissue left. But now more coronally, you see a very clean dentinal wall, but now you see the Tomes process with the head of the odontoblastic process chopped off. So I haven't seen this before. So in that area, more coronal, in the mesial root, you have a lot of Tomes processes still intact going down into the tubule. So it's a very interesting case. I thank Reid for sending it over and interested in your comments.